Alright, so for the first section, we are going to interpret what the inequalities could be identified as using a math sentence. For this inequality, it is identified as greater than, or it can be identified as more than. Those are the two ways in word problems and on your assignment. Those are the two ways that they will say them. Say this sign in words. For B, this is a less than sign. Which they will also identify it as fewer than. Not very common, but usually they'll say less than. C and D will have a lot more different ways that they will explain them. C first can be identified as greater or equal to. At least means that 15 is the smallest the x would be. Least. No fewer than, and not under. Most of the time in word problems, they use the word at least. That's the most common within word problems. D, less or equal to. X is less than or equal to -5. Does not exceed. Most. Does not exceed at most. Then what was the other ones they had on the homework? Not more than. Not above. And not greater. In word problems, does not exceed is and at most are the most common that we will see. Does anybody need more time to write those down? Then we're going to write and solve inequalities from context. For the first question, it says Keith has $500 in savings in the savings account, and at the beginning of summer, he wants to have at least $200 in the account by the end of summer. He withdraws $25 a week for food, clothes, and movie tickets. I need to write an inequality that represents Keith's situation. This will be your first box. In order to write an inequality, I know that Keith starts with 500, and how much does he take away each week? 25. I'm going to put X on the 25 to represent each week. 200 is the lowest he wants his account. So I'm going to look through the words. The words say at least. Do you see where at least is in our equation? This can help you to build your inequality. The other way you can do it is, do you remember inequalities in elementary school? They said alligator eats a bigger number. By the end of summer, this account, Keith wants this piece in his account to be greater or equal to 100. So the alligator should be eating this portion of the account that he wants to be above this value, or at least. That's why it faces this direction, like it's going to eat the bigger value. Second, it asks, how many weeks can Keith withdraw money from his account? Justify your answer. So I have this inequality we built, and I'm just going to solve it. We subtract the 500. That would cancel out. 200 minus 500 is negative 300. I then divide it by a negative 25. I have to be careful. I need to remember to flip the sign. Why do I flip the sign in this case? Exactly. When I divide by a negative number, flip the sign. Good. X, I flip my inequality sign. Negative 300 divided by 25 is 4 times 3 is 12. This is my inequality or set notation. Now, usually, if I were to write this as an interval, I would graph it to help me. Close dot, shade to the left. That would be negative infinity to 12. On your homework, you will have some that look like this with infinities. But I have a question about this word problem. Would it make sense to say that they can take out -1 week? -1 week or -2 weeks? No, in this word problem, it's going to have restrictions. So because of the restrictions, what is the lowest amount that my interval could be? During the summer, what's the least amount he could take out? 0. He could take out no money at all. That's the smallest he could do. And what's the maximum that we found? 25 is each week. But we did all of this work to help us find that the highest and most that you could take out during the summer or during that time is 12. 12 is the maximum that it could hit. That would be my interval. From there, when I write it as a set notation or an inequality, I would say it can't go below 0 and it can't go past 12 because of the way the problem is set up. I can't go negative weeks. This is where we did all that work to find the 12. Any questions? Section B. Eli's grade is based on an average of 4 tests. They need an average score of 85 to get a B in the class. Their first 3 test scores were 74, 91, and 87. What scores could Eli get on the 4th test to average at least 85? When I make an average, I add up all the values. How do I represent that I have one more score I need to add to this that I don't know? Don't know what the score is. X. That's the score I don't know. Now, when it's an average of 4 tests, do you remember the other day what I had to do with the average time? I have to divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4. They want my overall score to be, where's the wording? At least, thank you. At least. That means they want this side to be bigger or equal to that 85. They don't want to score lower than it. If they score lower, then they won't get the B that they want. That would be the inequality. Now I'm going to go down and solve and find out what that X needs to be. There are a few ways you can do this. Whoops, I drew that line too far. In order to get this 4 out of the denominator, I would need to multiply both sides by it. That would end up canceling the 4. And then I would have to have 4 tests. So basically 4 tests that would average up to 85. which would be a total of 4 times 5 is 20, 2, 34, 340. I'm gonna double check. 5 times 4, 340. We are good. From there, what do you think I will do to get x by itself? Yeah. Combine like terms? Okay. I can add these all up. 74 plus 91 plus 87 is 252 plus x. Which means I would have to subtract the 252 to see how much my score needs to be. So for 340 minus the 252 is 88. Based off this information, my interval, I would have 88 with a close dot shaded to the right, which would be 88 to infinity. This is all really good work. But why would this not make sense and fit with my word problem specifically? Why would the infinity not be okay on this specific question? Yeah. Yeah. Unless there's extra credits, we're not even going to dig into that. If I'm taking a test, really the maximum is 100%. So in order to adjust this, I would take my 88, that's the lowest I can score, and the highest I can score is 100. And I put this, I'm forgetting, I'm spacing. Bracket on the 100 because you can score 100. You can get 100%, so I'm going to have it equal to 100. As my set, I would say 88 is my lowest, 100 is my highest for my set. And enter. On your homework, you'll have a question that talks about text messages. Do you think there's a limit to, if they're like, you know how a lot of the plans are like unlimited texts, then it's okay to put infinity on it because they're not going to cut you off. Unlimited means forever. So infinities will occur on your homework. They just didn't happen in these questions. Your last section will be solving each system of equations by graphing and identifying the point of intersection. When I graph this first equation, I have negative 1/4 x plus 2. If I plug a 0 in, that would give me it would say that it equals 2. That means I have a point at 0, 2. The next number I plug in, I'm going to plug in a 4. Why did I pick 4 to plug in? Good job, denominator. That would cancel this out. -1 plus 2 is a 1. That is where my next point would be. And you don't have to show all this work. All that work you just do in your head or on your calculator. You don't have to do that for your homework. So this was the orange one. I'm now going to do the 3 over 4x minus 2. I'm going to plug in a 0. That would cancel out the fraction and leave a -2. Then I'm going to plug in a 4. That would cancel out my 4's. 3 minus 2 is a 1. What was the intersection? It was at 4. Hopefully this is review. It makes it's a little bit easier each time. The graph on the right side. I'm going to take this one first. -2, I'm going to plug in a 0. When I plug a 0 in, I'd be left with 1. 0, 1. Then I'm going to just plug another number in. Because it's not a fraction, I don't have to stress over which number I pick. Because I picked 0, I'm just going to plug in a 1. -2 plus 1 is -1. Then your graph would autofill. For my second equation, I'm going to plug in a 0. 0 minus 2 is -2. Then I'm going to plug in a 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. My intersection is at 1 down 1. Some of you will notice patterns when you're graphing or shortcuts. You are more than welcome to use them. You do not have to graph them this way if you know a different way to do it. the bottom left graph. I have fractions, so I'm going to be plugging in the denominators after I plug in 0. Personally, 0, I always go with first. So I take this equation, I plug a 0 in, that fraction would go away, and I'd be left with -1. That would be my point, my graph. Then I would plug in, my bottom of the fraction is a 3, so I'd plug in a 3. That would make the 3 go away. 4 minus 1 is 3. That's my point. All of this you would do on your calculator or in your head. The second equation, I have -1/3, plug in a 0 to make it go away. That would leave me a +4 as my point. Then I plug in the bottom number of the fraction, which is a 3. When I plug a 3 in, these will cancel out, so I'm just going to cover them. What is a -1 plus 4?
3.
3. Good job. So my intersection is at 3, 3. That's hard to see. So let's say I'm getting pretty good at this and picking up fast. If I don't want to show my work, I would look at this equation, and I would ask, what happens when x is 0? What happens when x is 0? Where would that point be? When I put a 0 in here, that would make the 6 go away, which would leave me with -2. Then I would ask in my head, what happens when x is, let's just say when it's a 1. Let's just see what happens. What happens when I have a 6 times 1? 6. 6 minus 2 would be 4. 1 would be up 4. I would graph my line. So you can do it without typing and writing it out. You can do it in your head if you'd like. So if I do this blue one in my head, this is going to be, I'm going to draw it down here. When x is 0, What happens when I plug a 0 in here? What's 0 plus 3? 3. What happens when x is a 1? What's 1 plus 3? 4. 0's at 3, 1 is at 4. That gives me the point of intersection. Is at 1, 4.